Smoke rolled across the moonlit battlements like a living thing, tasting the stones with tongues of ash-gray vapor while bells told the hour of the wolf. Tyrion Lannister closed his one eye against the sting, leaning on the parapet of the King's Gate Tower as the night's chill gave way to the furnace heat below. Ships burned on Blackwater Bay, scores of them. Green fire snarling in their rigging, emerald reflections dancing across the water as if the gods themselves had strewn melted jewels upon the tide. Each time a pocket of wildfire burst, the roar was followed by the screams of men who had once thought themselves safe behind wooden hulls and painted shields. Yet even amid that terrible beauty, Tyrion felt the city pulsing like a wounded beast. Beneath his boots, the wall trembled to the thunder of rams at the river gate. To the east, the clangor of bronze bells from the Great September mixed with the distant wailing of children scattered through Flea Bottom. King's Landing was aflame inside and out, and the hand of the king was running out of answers. Ser Mandon reports the chain held, Podrick Payne said behind him, voice too young, too steady. The bay is choked. It must choke them harder. Tyrion watched another ship split in two, her hull a gaping grin that spilled sailors and wildfire into the black water. Stannis has numbers enough to build a bridge of corpses if we let him. A scream rose from below, high, piercing, abruptly cut short. Tyrion's hand crept to the haft of the axe that never seemed to leave his belt now. The small folk had begun dragging nobles from their houses by torchlight, saying coin and titles meant less than bread. He understood their desperation. He felt it too, but in a shape only he could taste. The bitter want of a child no one believed in, grown into a man no one feared enough. Your Grace, Pod caught himself. My lord, we should return to the Tower of the Hand. The new stores of wildfire won't matter. Tyrion turned from the bay. We cannot throw green fire forever. When it's ash and sparks, Stannis will still be here. I need another sword arm, another barricade, a bloody miracle. Pod's mouth worked silently, gathering courage. There is another thing. From Haleen. He says the black cells yielded more than pyromancer's nests. Stone that breathes, he called it. Cages beneath the Red Keep. Stone that breathes? Haleen drinks fumes. He's waiting in the dry tunnels. He begged audience only with you. Tyrion caught the taste of smoke again. Deeper, sulphurous. A tang that whispered of old furnaces and older blood. A half-remembered morsel from Maester Franken's lectures pricked him. That the Valyrians forged their empire with fire and song. That their dragons slept between the bricks of every city they conquered, waiting for kiss of flame to wake them. Nonsense, surely, yet wildfire had its secrets too, and the Red Keep knew none deeper than its vaults. South along the wall, a massive crash sounded. Stones spilled from the mud gate tower like children's blocks, taking archers with them.
But flinched.
Tyrion forced his legs to move. Send Ser Balon to the mud gate, he said. Hold it or die. If the gate falls, King's Landing falls, and I will not have Joffrey's head on a spike while Cersei weeps about duty. Pod rushed off. Tyrion descended the spiral stairs 2 at a time, mind racing faster than his feet. They had mined the riverfront, bribed cell sails, strung the harbor chain, and bartered the crown jewels for barrels of wildfire. Every gamble balanced on a knife edge. What would one more hurt? Even if the blade turned toward him, he had lived life beneath 1,000 such edges already. In the belly of the Red Keep the air grew still, thick with damp. Torches hissed in bronze claws, lighting the path to a door of oak bound with black iron. 2 gold cloaks slumped at posts, dead, throats slit. Haleen the pyromancer knelt over them, fingers wet with blood and something darker, almost oily. My lord Hand, he wheezed. Forgive the mess. Rats in velvet. These two, taking bribes to sell your secrets. What secrets? Tyrion demanded. Haleen's strained smile gleamed. Valyrian ones. He pushed the door ajar. A breath of air wafted out, warmer than the corridors above, redolent of brimstone. Inside, the torchlight shone off a corridor of black stone, seams glazed as if by ancient fire. Tyrion swallowed the memory of Balyrion's skull. those empty sockets mocking every man who dared raise a sword in this hall. "I thought the dragons dead 3 centuries," he said. "The great ones, yes," Helene replied, leading him past alcoves where crumbling skeletons lay in venerable dust. "But Valyrian flames do strange things to time. Some eggs never hatch until the hour of greatest need. The Targaryens forgot them, but we preserve." He savored the word like fine wine. Ahead, a round chamber opened, ribbed by pillars that soared to vanish in darkness. At its center rested 3 iron cages, each clasped by chains thicker than a man's thigh. Within, shapes writhed, scaled, glinting, small yet terrible. One exhaled. A thin jet of orange fire licked the bars. The other 2 hissed in answer, wings scraping iron. Tyrion felt his breath hitch. Dragons, no larger than dogs, but dragons all the same. Green as jade, cream white with flecks of gold, black as midnight streaked with red. Their eyes caught the torchlight, pupils narrowing to slits of molten copper. "Eggs," Helene whispered, "found buried in rock older than Aegon's walls. We coaxed them to life with wildfire vapors. The queen, your sister, will not hear of them. Claims they're curses. But curses can be swords when guided by wisdom." Tyrion approached the nearest cage. The green dragon tilted its snout, tasting his scent. A low croon vibrated through the floor, stirring something strange within him. A sense of being seen completely, flaws and fire alike measured and accepted. "In daylight we cannot show them," Helene said. "But night covers many sins. Blackwater burns. The bay's wind may carry them to the ships. Imagine sails aflame, men scattering like vermin. Or imagine a dragon loosed in Flea Bottom," Tyrion muttered. Yet the image refused to frighten him the way it should. He had set wildfire on the river knowing it would kill his own as well as Stannis's. This mattered no less, yet it felt cleaner. Less treacherous than wildfire barrels leaking in storerooms. Dragons were honest. They slew what they wished, but they slew first, not by accident. The pyromancer pressed a ring of keys into Tyrion's hand. "Only you decide. The hand's will is king tonight." Tyrion closed fingers around cold iron and heard the city again. Chains rattling on the harbor gate, bells clanging alarms, the distant sob of a woman perched on a roof praying for dawn. He heard his father's voice too, that sneer of disappointment, and he thought of Shay, waiting in a hidden room, counting every heartbeat for his return. If King's Landing fell, she would die before first light. He inserted the first key. The lock clicked. The green dragon lunged against bars, rattling chains overhead, eyes fixed upon him, no, upon the flames of the torch. Hunger shone in that gaze. Tyrion released the second lock, then the third. The door swung inward. Hot breath washed his face. The dragon did not spring but waited, head canted, as if recognizing the cautious soul before it. "Go," he whispered. It stepped past him, claws tapping stone, wings unfurling like sails of living glass. A sharp rattle signaled another cage door flying open. Helene had lost patience, freeing the cream gold beast. Tyrion moved to the third cage himself, drawing breath that burned his chest, and twisted the last key. Red-black wings slapped the air. Dragonfire rose in a trio of thin white tongues that touched the vaulted roof, scorching centuries of dust into sparks. The beasts turned as one toward the corridor, noses lifted to the distant scent of smoke and blood beyond the door. "Guide them," Helene urged. "The Blackwater is calling." Tyrion found a laugh rippling from his throat, half terror, half wonder. "Dragons have never taken kindly to leashes, pyromancer. They will guide us." He snatched a fallen torch and hurried after the green, which was already bounding down the passage on lithe legs, wings half raised. The others followed, their combined heat banishing the cellar's chill. At the stairwell, guards gaped. Some fled, others fell to knees. One fool tried to draw steel. The cream dragon puffed a short burst that set his helm aflame. He stumbled screaming against the wall, flesh melting to iron before Tyrion's horrified gaze. They emerged into a courtyard awash in wildfire light, the sky ablaze behind the mud gate. A gust brought burnt salt air. The green dragon leapt, wings catching rising thermals from the pyres. With a keening cry it climbed, tail lashing sparks. The black-red followed, then the gold, all three vanishing into darkness like embers flung by a god's mighty hand. Tyrion's knees would not hold him. He sank beneath a stone arch, heartbeat thundering louder than siege drums. Haleen stood near, teeth bared in lunatic triumph. "Dragonfire and wildfire share a common mother," he said. "Tonight they feast together." Across the bay, a new blaze bloomed, brilliant orange rather than green, blossoming atop a galley whose mast toppled in 2 beats. Screams carried on the wind, mingled with astonished horns. The dragons had found prey already. Tyrion forced himself up, half stagger, half march. "We must signal the fleet to pull back behind the chain. Let Stannis taste our new allies." "Some will call it sorcery," Haleen warned. "Let them. The city survives or it does not." A shadow swept overhead, quick, silent. Tyrion looked up to glimpse the green dragon circling the tallest tower like an emerald comet before veering west toward the bay, a trail of sparkling embers in its wake. The other 2 flanked it, weaving patterns of fire across the domed night. Below, soldiers on the walls dropped pikes and bows, staring in rapture or terror. On Stannis' siege lines, torches faltered, men pointing skyward in dread. Bronn found Tyrion by the barbican, dragging him toward the horse gate. "Half the bloody fleet is afire," he shouted over the roar. "Not just theirs, some of ours. Your pet lizards don't care which side they roast. They care that someone burns," Tyrion said, voice calm as frost. Bronn laughed in disbelief. "You mad little shit. I risked my neck for gold, but I never thought I'd see dragons in the bargain. You'll see more. Keep the archers off the battlements. They're worth less than one of those beasts." Another flare erupted where the Blackwater met the rush. The gold dragon dove slammed talons upon a siege tower anchored in shallows and bathed it in living flame. The tower's canvas drapes exploded outward, men tumbling into fire-slick water. When the dragon rose, long plumes of smoke trailed its wings like banners of ruin. High on Aegon's hill, Cersei Lannister stood before the Red Keep's highest balcony, goblet forgotten in her grip. Her green eyes followed the dragons with a hunger Tyrion knew too well. She had wanted wildfire to destroy her father's enemies. She had not dreamt of dragons. Perhaps now she would see that fear could be forged into a crown, and Tyrion would be its smith. Then came the next test. The black-red dragon wheeled over the city, drawn by fresh scent of death. It banked low across Flea Bottom, scattering slum roofs like kicked anthills. Embers drifted onto thatch. Within heartbeats, a dozen fires bloomed among hovels packed tight as seeds. Tyrion's breath caught. He had unleashed catastrophe to stave off defeat, yet catastrophe could not be bound by treaty or walls. If the dragons torched the city, Stannis need only march upon ashes. "Bronn," he said, "string me every swallow, every crossbow, anything that shoots. Tell them aim skyward only if a dragon flies above houses. Their scales are softer beneath the wings. Go for the joints. You'll have them killing your own victory. Better than them killing my city." Bronn departed cursing, but Tyrion felt the burden settle aright. He had loosed the flame. Now he must learn to shepherd it. Somewhere inside him, perhaps in that place children called the soul, he felt the dragons scorch a sigil of their own upon his will. Their heat would not leave him. The night dragged. Wildfire barrels exploded in pockets along the shore where enemy siege lines met the tide. Dragons swooped, igniting beachheads. Once, Tyrion thought he saw the green carry off a manhole, talons clenched about wriggling limbs. By false dawn, a pallid shimmer through smoke. Stannis' fleet had broken apart, half sunk, the rest retreating downriver or beaching hulls to flee inland. Siege towers lay toppled and charred. On the walls, the gold dragon perched like a gargoyle, wings folded, preened burnished scales with a forked tongue, content as a cat. The others roost atop the dragon pit's shattered dome, whose ancient timbers had caught fire in their fury. Tyrion climbed to meet them, footfalls echoing across broken marble mosaics. The black-red dragon watched him come, head cocked. He offered no threat, no bow. He merely stood beneath their gaze. Lannister, the dragon seemed to whisper, Lion of the Rock, Hand of the City of Ash. What will you do with Dawn? Tyrion lifted his chin. We live, he said aloud, voice raw, and living is more than I dared ask of the gods tonight. Behind him, bells began to ring once more, slow, uncertain, then pealing with growing certainty. Victory, they proclaimed in tones of hammered bronze. Victory bought with wildfire and the oldest fire of all. Yet Tyrion heard another sound in the spaces between bell strokes. Wings beating, distant yet rising. Dragons called across the sky, and something answered beyond the city walls. Whether echo or promise he could not know, but the hairs on his neck stiffened. The world had felt dragons again. It would never be the same. He felt laughter bubble, low, weary, laced with dread. The price of tonight would come due tomorrow, and every morrow after. He glanced to his left hand, blackened where the green dragon's first breath had grazed his glove. Blisters erupted beneath the leather, already weeping. Good. Pain meant he had gambled everything yet still breathed. 5 hours, he murmured, remembering the boy Podrick's terrified hope that dawn would come by then. 5 hours of night left to outlive before the sun. The dragon spread wings crimsoned by burning dawn, and Tyrion Lannister walked between them, the taste of smoke forever welded to his lungs, wondering whether he had saved King's Landing, or set the candle to the powder keg that would sunder all of Westeros. The bells rang themselves hoarse through the smoky dawn, saluting a city half saved and half burned, and Tyrion Lannister limped from the dragon pit with a taste of soot on his tongue and one tattered thought repeating in his skull. I must make morning believe in yesterday's miracle. The dragons soared somewhere beyond the haze, yet their absence felt heavier than their presence. Every heartbeat in King's Landing strained for the clap of wings, every eye twitched at drifting cinders, and the streets stank of dread sweeter than any perfume the perfumers ever brewed. He found the yards below Maegor's holdfast choked with refugees from Flea Bottom. Women hugging squalling babes, small folk bleeding from wildfire burns, Sel's words pawing half-melted coins from pooled pitch. A line of gold cloaks tried to form a cordon, but the sight of the little hand limping in scorched leather sent murmurs rippling. Dragon spear, dragon hand, demon dwarf. Tyrion ignored them, though each name bit like a flea. He mounted the steps to the outer bailey and beckoned Bronn, who appeared as if conjured from the smoke, cheeks streaked with ash, green fire drying to black flakes on his mail. Flea Bottom still smolders, Bronn reported. We bucket what we can, but half the buckets burned or were carried off. The fire jumps roofs faster than men can piss on it. Your lizards don't care whose banner hangs from a rafter. They fed, Tyrion asked. On goats Shagga butchered where the street of flour meets the hook. Bronn's grin flashed white. Clansmen danced round the carcasses like some North god's orgy, beating shields so the beasts would feel welcome. Worked, too. One dragon swallowed a leg whole. Good. A full belly makes tame company, until it needs another. Tyrion rubbed at the burn beneath his glove. Blisters had burst in the night, weeping clear fluid that glued linen to flesh. Every motion sent a lance of pain to his elbow. Tell Shagga I want goats penned near the dragon pit at first light each day. They must learn where meat comes from. They'll learn it's dwarf, sized same as goat, sized if goats run short. Then see goats do not run short. Bronn shrugged. I hear the Riverlands team with them. Walder Frey breeds goats quicker than grandsons. We'll requisition herds. Tyrion barked a laugh that tasted of iron. Frey will squawk, but Tywin owns his squawks these days. Mention of his father chilled the morning more than any wind off Blackwater Bay. Lord Tywin's host had ridden within a day of King's Landing when last Raven arrived. Victory would smell familiar to that old lion, but dragons would smell of a threat no victory erased. Tyrion pictured the stern lines of his sire's face cracking, not with fear but with the hard, shining interest of a man seeing a weapon he intends to claim. "Where is Helene?" "Back in his vaults," Bronn said. "Took 100 pyromancers to mix more wildfire before the clay cools." Idiots cheered every dragon roar, said it was proof their green piss is holy. Holy or cursed makes scant difference so long as they keep the jars sealed. Have Podrick summon the small council to the throne room within the hour, and bring a maester, any maester with both hands intact, to treat burns among the guard. I'll not have tales spreading that dragon's rot flesh with a gaze. Pycelle wring his beard when he hears that order. He's missing 3 links of courage. Fetch him anyway. Courage is seldom improved by hiding. Bronn gave a lazy salute and stalked off, kicking a looter who crouched over a broken helm. Tyrion lingered to watch a column of smoke bleed into the pale sky where the sun tried to pierce through, its rays weak as Kingsguard oaths. 5 hours of night left to outlive before the sun, he had said. Morning came, but night lingered inside people's bones. He felt it in his own marrow, a trembling expectation that something greater still waited beyond the veil of rising smoke. He crossed the courtyard toward Maegor's massive doors, passing a pair of Tyrell spearmen newly arrived from the Rose Road. Their faces bore the slack astonishment of men who had marched to rescue a city and found it rescued by nightmares instead. One whispered as Tyrion passed, "He rides them?" And the other half bowed, uncertain whether a dwarf who ruled dragons earned more fear than contempt. Inside the holdfast, grooms lined the great hall to wash blood from flagstones. Flies buzzed in sweet frenzy. The corpses of traitor guards still lay beneath linen shrouds awaiting pyres. The ovens near Dragonstone Tower could not keep pace with the dead. Tyrion pushed onward to the throne room doors, which swung open at his nod. The iron throne glimmered in the newborn light dripping through stained glass windows, each shard catching a flicker of green reflection from distant burn. Ingenieurships. Joffrey sat upon the monstrous seat like a child perched on a forge. Ser Preston of the Kingsguard stood stiff beside him. Queen Cersei paced at the dais in a dress the color of dried blood, goblet to her lips though dawn had barely kissed the sky. Pycelle hovered near a pillar, robes scorched at the hem. Varys in shining lavender silks looked fresh as a dawn lily, though sweat pearled his bald head. The queen spun at Tyrion's entrance, and her eyes, emerald as wildfire, narrowed. "You?" she hissed, the word thick with wine and something darker. "You unleashed them." Tyrion bowed just long enough to sting her pride. "I preserved the city, dear sister. Did we not all pray for deliverance?" "Deliverance, yes, but not monsters." That black fiend scorched the street of looms. "Half my weavers are ash. Had your weavers been at the mud gate, they would be ash by Stannis' torches instead. Better a scorched loom than a raped corpse." Joffrey pounded a mailed fist on the arm of the throne. "I want one." Silence crashed among marble columns. Tyrion raised an eyebrow. "One? Dragon." The boy king's grin split pale lips. "The green one matches my eyes. I am king. Dragons bowed to Aegon, so they will bow to me." "They did not bow even to Aegon," Varys murmured, hands tucked demurely into sleeves. "They permitted him to share their sky." Joffrey's grin faltered. Cersei shot Varys a glare that could have peeled paint. "If my son commands, you will bring the dragon to heel," she told Tyrion. "Else the city will see its hand cannot control what he has wrought." Tyrion felt the room lean toward him, every gaze testing for cracks. He limped closer until the sword points of the throne's lower blades threatened to nick his shoulder. "Your Grace," he said to Joffrey. "In time we will learn whether dragon and man can ride together, but dragons are but hours from hatching, confused, hungry. To chain one now would teach it to fear, not obey. You would rather a steed willing than a beast waiting to bite." The boy's gaze flickered between mother and uncle. Cersei's lips parted, ready to spit barbs, but Pycelle interjected with a cough as frail as parchment. "Majesty, might we consider the memory of Harrenhal? Dragonfire melts stone. The Red Keep is no stronger. Perhaps these creatures should be secured until your grace has matured." Joffrey's face flushed red gold. Are you calling me a child, Grand Maester? Pycelle's knees wobbled. Heaven forfend, sire. I speak only for prudence. Tyrion saw Cersei seize on the moment, ready to turn the tide. He acted first, slamming his burned hand against a step, pain sharpening his words. Let us be plain. Dragons freed the city when wildfire alone could not. If we cage them now, we prove as cowardly as Stannis' men who fled at first flame. But dragons ungoverned are swords spinning in a crowded hall. Therefore we must learn how to govern them. Grant me leave to study them, to build mews atop the dragon pit's ruins, to feed them and watch them. When they grow tame enough, then we may speak of who rides and who reigns. Cersei opened her mouth. Varys spread his hands. An eminently sensible course, sweet lords. Chains made too soon break, whereas habits forged gently may last generations. The queen simmered, but Joffrey leaned back with a satisfied nod. Very well, uncle. Train them. I shall ride the first. As you wish. Tyrion bowed once more. But remember, even princes must learn to sit a mule before they break a charger. Joffrey did not understand, yet the phrase pleased him, so he smirked like a conqueror. Tyrion stepped aside as servants hurried to set fresh rushes and sweep glass shards from the floor. Varys drifted to him, voice low. You have plucked a viper and set it to your breast. Better my breast than my brother's, Tyrion murmured. Lord Tywin approaches. I feel his shadow already, and Queen Marjorie with him, if tales be true. Tyrion snorted. A new queen will want children. Dragons hatch from fire, Lannisters from schemes. He rubbed his aching temple. I thank you for speaking on my behalf. The eunuch's smile was moonlight on still water. I spoke for the realm. A stable dragon is preferable to a rampaging one, or to an empty sky that lures invaders. Podrick appeared breathless beside them, cheeks ruddy from running. My lord. The small folk gather at the river gate, chanting for bread. They will receive bread once the granaries cool, Tyrion answered. Send Ser Jacelyn to hold the gate. Distribute what grain we spared from flame. Water too, before thirst drives them mad.
Pod departed.
Varys brushed imaginary lint from his sleeve. Fire destroys but also clarifies. One need only look at what remains to see truth. Tyrion eyed him. And what remains? Dragons. A city keening for strong hands. And a dwarf who is either its savior or its downfall. Or both, Tyrion muttered, and took his leave. A splinter of iron snapping off the throne and clattering down steps behind him like a warning bell. The dragon pit's dome had collapsed entirely by noon, ribs of rusted iron jutting skyward like a shattered crown. Smoke rose from the timbers, but within the ruin the three dragons sprawled content beneath the sun, wings half spread, scales glimmering. The black-red beast, Pod had nicknamed it Ember, lay curled around a brazier of still-burning charcoal Shagga kept stoked. The green, soon called verdant by the stable boys, snapped at ravens that ventured too near. The gold cream, Orion for some long-vanished Valyrian lord, licked its foreclaws, eyes hooded. Tyrion approached with a bucket of water, the heat of the smoldering pit rippling his vision. Shagga, covered head to toe in ash besides the ochre war paint he favored, stood watch with an iron-shod club. Shagga son of Dolph keeps goats penned west, he said proudly. Dragons ate too, left horns and hooves like bones of mountains. They like horns, maybe later. Save the horns. Pyromancers can grind them to ash for study. Shagga tapped his chest. Shagga will grind men for study if dragons grow hungry. Let's hope it won't come to that. Tyrion eased nearer Ember, who regarded him through a translucent nictitating membrane. He tipped the bucket, letting water trickle into a bronze dish. Steam hissed where drops struck ground. Ember sniffed, flicked a forked tongue, then lowered his head to lap with surprising delicacy. The other two followed, drinking in turn. As they drank, Tyrion studied the folds of membrane near their shoulders where wings joined bodies, noting the texture of scale and skin, the flecks of talons. He spoke quietly, narrating what he saw as if for a maester's quill. Wingspan perhaps 2 arms wide, scaling at pivot thicker, flexible. Fire glands above palate perhaps, visible glow when throat throbs. A rasp behind him announced Helene's arrival. The pyromancer bore scrolls bound with copper wire. They thirst richer minerals than water alone, he said. Volcanic salts. We can grind obsidian, add to feed. You think I have casks of dragonstone salt in cellar? Helene's eyes shone. Obsidian is plentiful in caverns beneath the city. We mined some for pyre stones once. With your leave, my guild will fetch bricks, crush, sift as powder. Dragons will grow strong, scales like armor. Fetch what you will so long as you do not blow the caverns beneath my feet. And keep the guild contained. No one speaks of dragons outside these walls until Tywin hears it from me. The pyromancer bowed, robes dusting charred earth. The guild obeys the hand. Tyrion rubbed his neck where sweat pooled. Obeys until gold glitters louder. Even so, we need them. He watched Orion sneeze a puff of smoke into the air. Sparks drifted, and Verdant snapped them, playful. A pang of affection startled Tyrion. The beasts were dangerous, yet mesmerizing. He felt a kinship in their isolation. Born of fire, feared by all. A horn blast echoed from the city walls. Shouts rose among soldiers perched along the gate of the gods. From the pit's hollow vantage, Tyrion glimpsed banners fluttering on the Rose Road, crimson threads etched with gold. Father has come, he said. The western gate yawned wide to swallow the victorious host of Lord Tywin Lannister. Sun hammered polished plate, glinting off helms crowned by lions' mane crests. Ranks of footmen marched in disciplined lines, pikes upright, red cloaks fluttering. Behind them rolled siege wagons, knights on destriers pawing at cobbles, septons scattering incense. And at the column's heart rode Lord Tywin himself, rigid in massed armor, his white courser draped in barding cloth of gold. Tyrion waited within the gatehouse, Bronn at his right, Pod beyond, and half a dozen clansmen hidden behind tapestry archways, just in case Father chose displeasure over gratitude. When the procession halted, Tywin dismounted without flourish, handing reins to a groom. His green eyes swept the smoke-shadowed skyline, lingering on the dragon pit's collapsed shell, on the lingering smears of green fire along harbor towers, before settling on his son. King's Landing stands, he said. It does, Tyrion replied. And Stannis Baratheon? Fled, his fleet burned or scattered, his men routed. He remains alive, but bruised. Tywin nodded once, approval measured as a banker counts coppers. Word reaches us of creatures. Are these rumors? Tyrion felt everyone's breath hitch. Dragons are no rumor, he answered evenly. 3 small ones, hatched in vaults lost since Maegor's reign. I loosed them when wildfire alone might not suffice. Tywin's face revealed nothing, but the flicker in his eye reminded Tyrion of lamplight catching an unsheathed blade. Show me. They rode up Aegon's hill in silence save for hoofbeats. Smoke gusted across rutted lanes. Small folk knelt or scrambled aside. Atop the dragon pit's broken stair, Tywin dismounted, helm tucked beneath arm. The dragons basked a bowshot off, tails flicking dust. Verdant lifted its head, pupils slitting. Ember stretched enormous wings whose shadows swallowed half the courtyard. Tywin inhaled sharply, more a measured intake than gasp, then strode closer until warm air wavered around him. He studied the beasts as he might assay coin. They are young. They grow fast, Tyrion said. Every hour sees thicker scale. Do they obey? They have not yet disobeyed, which is not the same. No. Tywin folded gauntlet hands behind his back. The dragons are property of the crown, which is to say, mine to safeguard on behalf of Joffrey. I will have them caged. Tyrion stepped in front of him, every instinct screaming at the folly but refusing to yield. Cage them and they die. Dragons must roam heat. They need fire, space, sky. Maegor's dragon pit killed greater beasts than these. The roof collapsed from their despair. Do you want 3 corpses, father? Or 3 armies? Tywin's gaze bored into him. An army obeys discipline. Dragons obey appetite. Appetite can be steered. Let me steer it. The realm fears winter, wildlings, rebels. Imagine 3 grown dragons on the trident or looming above the wall. Ours alone. Imagine them turning bravos to rubble, inciting every free city to unite against Westeros. Then we unite Westeros first, Tyrion retorted. With dragons overhead, even the North will bend knee in time. He expected his father's hand at his throat. Instead, Tywin gave a small nod, as if concluding an internal tally, and walked a circle round Ember, boots crunching charred gravel. The dragon rotated its golden eyes to follow him, but made no move. After a long minute, Tywin spoke. You will train them under my oversight. The Guild of Alchemists may assist, but the Citadel will send archmasters to study them. No decision regarding their use shall be made without my voice. Tyrion bowed, bowels liquid. As you command. Tywin faced him. And do not mistake, the world now changes course. Every raven flies north, east, south with this tale. Allies will court us. Enemies will arm with scorpions and poison. Your dragons win battles, but they also paint targets upon our walls. So we will strike first and let no foe draw breath to aim. Tyrion swallowed the taste of ash. Strike where rebellion festers. The Stormlands first, root out any lord who sheltered Stannis. Then the Riverlands until Riverrun bows. And the north, once Robb Stark's head rolls. Verdant hissed, flaring nostrils. Tywin eyed the reaction, lips twitching contemptuously. Even beasts know when blood is coming. Night fell again, but torchfire outshone stars. Tyrion convened his cabal in a forgotten chamber of Maegor's Keep, high in a turret where once the Mad King kept secret baths. Now the marble pool lay cracked, half filled with stagnant water reflecting wavering torchlight. Around its rim sat Bronn, Haelene, Shagga, and Sibel Spicer, a witch-eyed Cranaguman Varys quietly recommended for her knowledge of dragon lore. Podrick hovered at the doorway, cheeks pale. Tyrion stood on the pool's broken lip, voice hushed though stone walls would carry no echo beyond. Father means to leash us alongside dragons. That we expected. What we did not expect. The dragons responded to me. Sibel's pupils glimmered like midnight pools. Blood calls to fire, she said. Valyrian and old. Do you know your mother's line? Joanna Lannister was of the rock, golden of hair, proud of jaw. No dragon seed there, but lines twist, minds run deep. There are tales of Lan, the clever bedding daughters of the freehold. She dipped fingers in the fetid water, swirling moons of oil. Dragons will not serve for coin. They smell truth. They smelled it in you. Tyrion's laugh cracked brittle. Truth? They smelled desperation. Desperation is honest. Bronn sharpened a dagger on whetstone. Honest or not, can they be taught to burn where pointed? Haelene produced a parchment diagram. The dragon's throat, glands marked in red ink. Their flames come from 2 sacks mixing volatile oils. We can modulate by diet. Feed naphtha, the fire burns yellow. Feed wildfire fume, greener. Feed brimstone, burn hotter. You propose feeding wildfire to my dragons? Tyrion asked. Haelene's grin was all cracked lips. A drop, a hint. They were birthed in fumes. They are of our craft now too. Shagga thumped his club. Shagga says train dragon like hound. Reward meat, punish with spear butt. A spear but against dragon hide would shatter like straw, Tyrion noted dryly. Better we reward meals and starve them when disobedient. Sibel sucked tufty strands of hair behind ear. Be wary. Starved dragons become wild. Better bond through song. Song, Podrick squeaked. She nodded. Valyrians sang to hatch eggs, sang to quell rage. Not pretty tunes, thrumming notes, deep. Fire dances to vibration. Tyrion filed the thought away. I can hum as well as howl. We shall try. A bell clanged outside, faint but insistent. The ritual signaling of ravens arriving. Podrick scampered off and returned moments later with a scroll bearing the wax dragon of Queen Daenerys. Though here it was only a crude attempt at such, a swirl of red sealing wax pressed with a signet unknown to Westeros. Tyrion slid it. The parchment bore high Valyrian script. To the one who wakes sleeping flame, know that dragons hatched not in your care belong to their mother. Return them across the sea lest fire wash your stone away. D. Bronn squinted. Who's D? Daenerys Stormborn. Tyrion felt blood thrum at his temples. Last Targaryen by her own account. Across the narrow sea she hatches dragons of her own. Shagga spat. Wolf girl across water will not take Shagga's dragons. They are not ours, Tyrion murmured. Not holy. They belong to the age. Haleen snorted. An exiled girl cannot cross seas with 3 lizards and hope to claim these walls. Our lizards will greet her ships with fire. Unless she brings more fire. Sibel's gaze turned inward. Old Valyria whispers she hatched hers upon a pyre. She is mother of flame. Bronn sheathed his dagger. Mother or maid, we have swords, scorpions, and 1,000 bows. And she may have dragons grown larger, Tyrion said. Her eggs hatch 2 moons past if rumor's right. Ours are but newborns. The chamber fell silent, the stagnant pool a mirror to their unease. Tyrion folded the scroll. Very well, we answer with silence. The queen across the sea will hear nothing from King's Landing but ravens coughing smoke. Let her wonder how many dragons we hold. Let father believe he holds the reins. Meanwhile we learn and grow. Shagga grinned. We grow dragons. Shagga will sing. By the end of the next moon's turn, King's Landing bore 2 faces. By day, masons rebuilt towers. Carpenters raised a skeleton of fresh timber across the dragon pit's open roof, leaving hatch doors for flight. Butchers drove herds through streets to feed scaly throats. Maesters marched with salves to treat burns. Everywhere the shadow of wings lay long. Children made toys of charred wood carved into dragon shapes, selling them for coppers in markets still stinking of death. By night, the dragons patrolled skies silvered by moon, arcs of orange fire tracing lazy sigils above the bay to keep smugglers honest. The city's folk prayed to the mother for mercy, the warrior for courage, and the stranger to pass them by. Tyrion's burns healed to puckered scars, yet each night they itched anew. He kept journals of feeding times, growth rates. The green weighed thrice its birth mass within 50 days. The black-red grew longest talons. The gold learned to nose open doors in search of heat. He hummed low Valyrian chords taught by Sibel, discovering the beasts calmed to certain vibrations. At dawn they would gather to him like cats to milk, curling tails around his stump legs until he scratched the ridges above their eyes. Soldiers whispered Dragon Prince behind his back. Some knelt when he passed. Others crossed themselves. King Joffrey, denied proximity, grew sullen, beating servant boys with a scepter hilt, blaming Tyrion for cowardice. Cersei drank deeper and plotted with Pycelle to have Grand Maester's chains weigh heavy on the hand's decisions. Tywin watched from the Tower of the Hand, silent as a gold statue, dispatching ravens announcing that the realm's new peace rested on his house's crimson wings. Beyond the city, ravens carried darker tidings. Robb Stark won a victory at Ashmark. Balon Greyjoy raided the Arbor. In the east, Selsales whispered that Karth armed a fleet for a silver-haired queen riding 3 giants of fire. Tyrion pored over maps as Ember's shadow flickered above candle stubs, and knew the day would come when dragons would face dragons. The 7th week after Blackwater, Tyrion stood upon the high ramparts of the city's eastern curtain, cloak snapping in winter's first breath. Below, the bay mirrored cotton clouds tinged rose by dawn. Beside him crouched Orion, newly molted scales shimmering pale gold. The dragon nudged his shoulder, seeking warmth. Tyrion offered a gloved hand and felt heartbeat within the beast's jaw, strong and fast. Noise drifted from the muddy bank's north side. Tywin's host assembling for march. Banners cracked. Lion, rose, red wine grape cluster. Even the crowned stag of King's Landing flying now from Tyrell spears. Siege towers rolled. Oxen bellowed, men cheered. The Stormlands campaign began, and among the baggage trains lumbered wagons cage-roofed, each fitted with heavy chains, braziers of coals, and stacks of goat meat, traveling mules for dragons. Tywin insisted one beast accompany the AR. My proof against treachery. Tyrion had argued to keep all three in the city until larger, but his father's word outweighed reason. In the end, a straw was drawn. Orien selected to follow war. The smallest of the trio, though fastest, with flame hottest by Helene's measures. Tyrion had insisted on traveling as handler, but Tywin barred him. The hand must stay with king and council. Instead, Sibel Spicer would ride, flanked by 50 guards and a dozen pyromancers. The wagons moved, creaking toward the Rose Road gate. Orien tilted his head, whined, a hatchling's plea. Tyrion's chest clenched. He stroked the ridge behind its horn buds. "Serve well," he murmured. "Make father believe." He pressed his forehead to the dragon's warm brow. "And come back." Bronn appeared, helm under arm. "They'll butcher the thing for parts if it sneezes wrong. So will I butcher them if they do," Tyrion said. "If Orien dies, father loses a weapon and I lose something rarer still. A creature that saw me and did not shrink." "Plenty shrink from you," Bronn observed. "Seen them piss themselves. Pissing and shrinking differ." Bronn snorted. "I'd rather piss than burn." Tyrion watched the wagon disappear into dust. Verdant circled overhead, keening low, searching for its clutch mate. Ember roosted atop the half-built dragon pit roof, wings mantling. Tyrion felt a tug inside his heart, as though the chain linking the trio stretched through his ribs. Across the narrow sea, Daenerys felt it too, perhaps. He imagined her on a high balcony, her eldest dragon's roar waking her at the moment Orien left King's Landing, the echo threading a cord between destinies. Dragons were one brood no matter how kings carved maps. A shiver traveled his spine. He touched the parchment hidden in his doublet, the second raven from Karth, arriving 2 days past. "Fire hears fire. The storm comes sooner than you dream. Bind them or be devoured." No signature this time, just the scrape of prophecy. He crumpled the message and let the wind snatch it, a pale scrap swirling away over the bay. Behind him, the city bustled. Markets reopening, septons preaching, whores singing bawdy tunes about lions and lizards. Life returning, but changed in every breath. Tyrion turned from the wall, thoughts marching quicker than any army. He must prepare feeding schedules, instruct Pycelle on stone salts, draft edicts forbidding mention of the Targaryen threat, bribe a mummer troop to spread tales of dragons loyal only to Lannisters. He must plan ballistae for rooflines in case they turned. He must keep Joffrey from climbing dragons like stairs. He must. Yet as he trudged down steps slick with dew, he realized none of those tasks weighed as heavy as the memory of Orien's plaintive cry. Something in that sound slipped past armor and wit and all the jagged walls he'd built around his heart. It made him recall a boy unloved in shadowed halls, dreaming of flying above jeers. It made him wonder if dragons, for all their terror, were merely children begging not to be alone in the sky. In the courtyard below, Verdant landed with a buffet of wind, eyes luminous. Tyrion raised a hand, and the dragon extended its snout, warm breath washing his face. He laughed softly, surprised at the gentleness in it, and whispered a promise no one else would ever hear. "I freed you to save a city, little flame, but perhaps you will teach me how to save myself." Night lay heavy upon the city despite the torches that guttered along every wall, walk, and bridge, despite the faint glimmer of red keep windows where revelers tried to pretend victory tasted sweet rather than acrid. Tyrion Lannister's candle cracked as he scrawled orders at a corner table in the Tower of the Hand, and each pop of wax reminded him of wildfire barrels bursting on the bay. He dipped quill, signed another parchment. Feed ledger, 20 goats, 3 bulls, 1 condemned murderer, and set it beneath a riverstone to dry. The hours grew small. Nothing but work kept specters away. The green glare on water, Orien's plaintive whine when carted off, the hush of wings unanswered across an empty sky. A tap sounded. Podrick eased in carrying a plate of cold boar slices and a pitcher of watered wine. Tyrion motioned him closer. "Eat," Pod urged, voice barely above a whisper. "You've taken nothing since midday." "I took a throat full of smoke." Tyrion chewed grudgingly, gaze returning to the map spread beside the quills. Pins marked Tywin's column pushing south along the Rainwood coast. Fresh ink rings circled four baronies said to yield without siege at the first rumor of lion fire from above. Another ring, darker, surrounded Storm's End, now garrisoned by Stannis' loyalists under Ser Gunser Sunglass. No dragon had touched that wall yet. Ravens from the Stormlands. Pod slid sealed messages forward. "One bears your sister's seal, the other Oldtown's. Let us savor Cersei's wrath first." Tyrion slit crimson wax. A single sentence greeted him. "Your dragons have turned King's Landing into a brothel of fear. Mothers drown babes in the Blackwater rather than let monsters snatch them from cradles." No signature, her malice needed none. He snorted, reached for the second parchment. Oldtown's Archmaester of Ravens wrote in sterner hand, "We dispatch Maester Lyron of the Jade Order to inspect your phenomena. Treat him with dignity or forfeit the Citadel's goodwill." As if goodwill could buy sackcloth now. Tyrion crumpled both, fed them to the brazier. "You see, Pod? Fear is efficient coin. It travels faster than gold." Pod's brow furrowed. If fear is coin, what buys back trust? Victory, or bread? Preferably both. A distant boom rattled shutters. Verdant's roar followed, echoing across rooftops. An agitated, searching note. Tyrion lurched upright, pain lancing healed burns. Something's wrong. They took the stairs 3 at a time toward the eastern parapet, guards scattering before them. Wind knifed cold up Tyrion's sleeves as he emerged onto the wall. Lanterns swung crazy arcs. Soldiers gaped skyward. Verdant wheeled above the dragon pit, tail lashing, flames jetting in ragged bursts far shorter than the smooth exhalations Tyrion had come to expect. Ember answered from atop the rafters with a thunderous shriek. Below, at the base of the hill, sparks blossomed, torches dancing through shadows. A throng of small folk advanced with pitchforks, nets, spiked poles, chanting "Burn the beasts, burn the beasts." Their ragged columns stretched from the Street of the Sisters clear to the Kingsroad fork. Leading them marched 3 septons in rag-stained robes, each carrying a gilded cage that held no bird but a glowing coal, a symbolic light of the maiden meant to sanctify wrath. Tyrion cursed. "Fear again, Pod. Too much too soon." Verdant dove, loosing a gout meant to warn but not slay. The flame splashed short, blackening cobbles. The mob recoiled yet surged anew, emboldened by numbers. Arrows from city guards hissed overhead, scattering without lethal aim. The last thing Tyrion needed was a massacre to feed tomorrow's whispers. He descended fast, boots clanging. At the Dragon Pit gate, Shagga bellowed interior commands in broken Westerosi, clansmen raising makeshift barricades from ox carts. Sibel Spicer stood beyond the line, arms upraised, singing a resonant note that quivered glass. The sound cut through Verdant's rage. The dragons circled tighter overhead, croon growing placid. Tyrion squeezed past Pike's Sibel. "Keep them aloft. No fire on the crowd unless I signal." Her voice never slackened, yet her eyes flicked to him, acknowledgement hidden inside melody. Tyrion stepped beyond the barricades alone, cloak billowing in gusts. The crowd faltered at sight of the dwarf. Some spat, others crossed themselves. The lead septon raised his lantern cage. "You cavort with abominations." The priest's voice boomed unnatural. A retinue of low acolytes behind him beat kettle drums for menace. "The 7 abhor scaled devils. Surrender them for holy cleansing." Tyrion spread burned hands. "Holy cleansing? You think to scour dragon flame with candlelight? Turn home before you scorch souls in place of scales." A chorus of shouts answered. "Monster, demon spawn, behead him first." Rocks flew. One struck Tyrion's breastplate, rattled off. Archers on the wall knocked, but he gestured them hold. He must solve this with less blood than wildfire. He raised his voice. "You fear fire. yet beg winter's cold kiss? Dragons warmed Aegon's realm, kept the long night at bay. Slay them, and when snows fall thick as walls, who defends hearth and children? A woman stepped forward, hair singed at one temple. Hearth? My cottage burned yesternight when your green demon circled. My babe choked on smoke. She thrust a charred doll. Grief silenced many behind her. Tyrion's throat tightened. Your loss is wound upon my heart, he said, truth ringing in the brittle air. Accept coin for rebuilding. 10 dragons wait in silver. Coins melt. Another spat. Give us the murderer above. Verdant screeched, scenting heightened anger. Sabelle's song rose, strained. Tyrion sensed the pitch slip. The dragon's pupils flared. Step back, he barked. Too late. A boy hurled a sling stone that struck Verdant's wing joint. The beast shrieked pain, folded, and plunged in fury. Tyrion shouted, "Down!" as emerald flame jetted. Torchlight vanished beneath roaring light. Screams slashed the night. When the blaze died, a semicircle of scorched cobble steamed. The front rank of zealots strewn blackened. The stink of charred flesh rolled like surf. Horror rippled through survivors. Sabelle's voice cracked but held, coaxing Verdant skyward again. Tyrion wheeled on city guards. Open the pipes. Massive cistern valves groaned. Torrents of river water channeled from the aqueducts burst from spouts, drenching street and corpses alike, raising clouds of hissing steam. The mob fled, howling.
Tyrion stood amidst ruin, belerising.
Every promise he had made to spare innocence lay smoldering before him. He turned away as healers rushed in, as Shagga's clansmen prodded for remaining threats, as Pod's wide eyes stared at him like a child waking from nightmare. There would be no easy pardon. For hours later, Tyrion faced the small council in the Tower of the White Sword, high above the turmoil. Cersei's cheeks glowed with triumph disguised as outrage. Murdered small folk, your handiwork. Now the faith calls dragon and dwarf both heresy. You ignite rebellion inside our walls. Pycelle wheezed agreement. Varys's silk-pink lips formed a sympathetic moo. Only Kevin Lannister, fresh from escort duties, looked on with worry rather than condemnation. Tyrion forced iron into his spine. It was riot, not massacre. Slingstone bled dragon, dragon defended. Had the gold cloaks stood firm, this never happens. Had you not loosed serpents, there'd be no stones. Cersei snarled, raking nails across table oak. Joffrey, perched near, sucked a cuticle thoughtfully. Hang every man who raised a weapon against my dragons. The faith will heal once heads roll. Pycelle gasped. Cersei snapped, No, sweet boy. We must placate the father's servants. She turned on Tyrion. Surrender beasts to the September for holy guardianship. They can be displayed, chained, controlled. Lovely plan, Tyrion said. Until chain snaps and dragons torch the September faster than wildfire ever dreamed. You'll have burned our holiest shrine along with half the city. Then kill the dragons. The words hung freezing. Kevin's eyes darted to her, shocked. Joffrey caught breath. Tyrion felt his heart stutter as though pierced. Kill them? After all lost to birth them alive? Varys's whisper slid like satin. Your grace, slaying symbols of victory so soon after triumph might be misread by realm as weakness. Better weak than cursed. Cersei's voice quavered under its steel. Tyrion saw fear there, raw. A knock spared immediate answer. Podrick entered with a raven scroll bound in black ribbon. Tywin's code for urgent blood.
Tyrion slitset seal, scannet.
Lines burned. Storm's end stands. Orien struck wall. Stone held. Dragon wounded. Ser Amory dead. Beast in pain. Send aid, send handler, or end its misery. Tyrion's vision blurred at dragon wounded. He lifted gaze. Father requests me join him. He underestimates scale of fortress stone built to face storms. Joffrey perked. I will go. I will ride the green. Burn the castle to rubble. Cersei clutched his arm. No battlefield yet, my love. Tyrion felt decisions coalesce like storm clouds. Orien hurt, Verdant restless, Ember likely next. If Tywin failed to breach, he might decide Dragon's liability and instruct maesters to cut heart from wounded beast as specimen. If Cersei prevailed here, she would slay the other two to preempt risk. Either path ended his scaly hopes. He pushed back chair, burn-scarred hand trembling but voice steady. I will depart at dawn with Verdant. Ember remains under Sibel and Shagga's guard. The faith may send septas to bless, soothe, heal, whatever salves conscience, but dragons stay alive. Cersei opened her mouth. He cut her off. Contest me and father loses his only chance to mend Orien. You think he'll applaud? That stilled the room. Even Joffrey understood the threat of Tywin's wrath. Cersei's jaw clenched. Go then, she spat. Die with your monsters. May the stranger embrace you all. Tyrion bowed. He might, he thought, but I'll warm the stranger's hands first. The dawn Tyrion rode from King's Landing tasted of iron frost. Verdant trotted ungainly beside his black palfrey, wings half-furled, tethered by a chain of braided silver links light enough not to drag. Sibel rode ahead chanting low hymns. Bronn rode flank with 10 cells words hardened by mountain skirmishes. Behind, 2 wagons bore water casks, goat carcasses, and barrels of river sand, Halene's instruction in case dragonfire threatened hayfields. The Rose Road stretched mud-slick, lined by burned farmsteads where knights foraged on retreat or advance. Sparrows watched from ditches, wide-eyed at the dwarf leading a green inferno on leash. At sunset the party reached Bitterbridge, garrison gate thrown open at sight of Lannister crimson but slammed again once Verdant's shadow loomed. They camped beyond walls, torches ringed, archers posted. Verdant refused penned goats, preferring to hunt. He leapt the ring, vanished into twilight. Tyrion paced until wings thudded back. A scorched deer dangled from jaws, gift laid at his feet. He thanked with scratch along jaw ridge, though tremor in voice betrayed worry. Hunting taught independence too soon. They pressed on, skirting the rainwood. Rumor preceded them. Storm's End ringed by Tywin's catapults, siege engines showering stone. Yet Sunglass held, shielded by ancient spells if tavern tongues spoke true. Worse, Maester Ravens claimed Stannis regrouped at Nightsong with fresh cell sails. On the 8th day, Verdant scented smoke on sea wind, keened. Clouds on horizon glowed orange beyond Treeline. Tywin's encampment. Trumpets hailed arrival. Campsfolk parted. Orion's traveling cage sat near siege lines. Bars warped outward, ropes twisted, char blackened. Inside, the gold dragon lay sides heaving. One wing mottled red-black where scorpion bolt buried deep. Its eyes glazed yet brightened at Verdant's approach. Tywin received Tyrion outside command tent, visage grim. The beast maddened on 4th assault, he said, not waiting greeting. Bolts felled it. Healers cannot mend bone fused by heat. Tyrion shed his glove, vaulted cage lip. He knelt, voice trembling Valyrian syllables Sibel had taught him. Little son, little son. Orion's head turned, nuzzled his lap. Heat radiated like forge. Tyrion's breeches smoked. He ignored pain, fingers brushing scale where bolt protruded. Pus and blood hissed. Sibel offered powdered obsidian suspended in goat milk. Tyrion dribbled between dragon's jaws. Steam rose as Orion swallowed. Verdant pressed against bars, crooning. The gold dragon rasped reply, weaker each breath. Tywin watched, arms folded. If it cannot fly, it cannot live. Give me 3 days. 1. Tyrion met his gaze. 2, father. On my honor.
Tywin slit barely flickered.
Dawn after next. Fail, I end its misery. The next 30 hours blurred. Sibel brewed drafts of pine resin and metasweet. Bronn bullied surgeons into forging hook tongs. At moonrise they heated iron rods, seared skin to widen wound channel, drawing bolt free inch by inch. Orien convulsed, tail smashing wooden struts. Tyrion sang hoarse until blood stained his ears from the roar's vibration. At daybreak he collapsed outside cage, heartbeat ragged, smelling his own burnt hair. Verdant guarded the cage door, occasionally breathing gentle wisps that warmed but did not scorch. Tyrion drifted in woozy half-sleep, dreaming of dragon hearts beating within his chest, each pulse spewing flame through veins. When he woke, Sibel draped a wet cloth across his neck. "The gold breathes easier," she whispered. "Wound closed, but fever remains." Tyrion forced himself to stand, limbs lead. "Father gives till dawn tomorrow." He eyed the towering bulk of Storm's End jutting above mist. "We buy dragon survival if it brings that wall down." Sibel's brow creased. "It barely walks. It need not walk. It must scream." He ordered a platform built. Sled of ash logs, chains rigged to twin oxen. Orion, dosed with herbs, allowed Verdant and Shagga to coax him atop. Catapults ceased at his sign. Siege crews gaped. As sun dipped, the platform creaked across muddy no-man's land to within 50 yards of Storm's End drum tower. Archers on battlements loosed shafts. Verdant intercepted with sweeping wing beats, sparks trailing. Tyrion climbed sesame of logs, crouched beside Orion's head. "One breath, little son. For freedom." He jabbed obsidian shard into injured flank. Pain ignited. Orion's throat bulged. He reared, golden eyes blazing new fire drawn from fever. The bellow that burst cracked air like splitting tree. Flame followed, white core dazzling, edged in orange so hot the mud baked glassy. The blast crashed against Storm's End wall. Ancient spells flared saffron runes across stone, dimmed, flared again. A second gout, shorter but fierce, slammed same spot. Cracks spidered. Soldiers atop rampart tumbled. Verdant joined, unleashing narrower jet that struck Crack's heart. Stone screeched as centuries of storm salt and magecraft met living fire. With thunder, a section the size of a barn peeled outward, collapsed sending haze of dust and molten edges. Lannister horns blared triumph. The oxen startled, sled shifting. Tyrion gripped chain as Orion sagged, breath rattling. Tywin's infantry surged. Tyrion slid down, mud-sucking boots. Sibel ran to him. "How long?" He knelt by Orion's eye. "Rest, Golden One. Your part is done." The dragon exhaled weak smoke and stilled, but chest yet rose. Tyrion swallowed tears of ash. Storm's End fell by midnight. Ser Gunser surrendered when lions breached second curtain by torchlight. Tywin's banners climbed ramparts while Verdant perched ruinous breach, proclaiming conquest in flame bursts that lit corpses strewn below. At dawn, Tyrion stood before his father in the castle's great hall where Baratheon stags had been stripped from walls. Tywin surveyed fallen tapestries as though already bartering them. "The dragon lives," he conceded. "The castle yields. You earned 2 victories." Tyrion's throat cracked. "And cost how many?" Visions of charred zealots flickered. Tywin's gaze felt colder than winter steel. "Kings weigh lives as sea. Opera waits not as sun's fancies." Tyrion faced him, weary yet defiant. "A day will come when these dragons choose for themselves. Pray they favor those who showed them mercy." "Dragons respect strength," Tywin said. "Show them more and they'll follow." Tyrion turned away, unsure whether he meant dragons or himself. Weeks later they rode north, Orion slung in reinforced net between 2 siege wagons, fever broken, wing twitching though not yet for flight. Verdant flew short arcs above, scouting. News met them like hail. Ember escaped King's Landing. Sibel's raven told how Blaze tore the half-finished roof, how chains snapped, how the black-red soared eastward before troops could respond. In its wake, Cersei declared the dwarf's hubris unbound, demanded city watch loose nets and harpoons. The faith preached omen of doom reborn. Tyrion read scroll by campfire, hands trembling. "One gone rogue, one maimed, one still loyal," he murmured, balance tilting. Bronze spat into coals. 3 blades is too many for a sane man, yet too few for the wars to come. He stared into flames, seeing not timber but possibilities. Dragons stitched to banners of different colors, green over Lannister gold, red over Targaryen black, black-red over no banner at all save its own shadow. Who would Westeros follow? Who would burn? Sleep eluded him that night. In dreams he stood atop the wall, winter gale ripping cloak, while dragons wheeled above armies of ice. When he woke, Orion watched him, golden eye reflecting campfire like a promise and a threat. In King's Landing, emberglow skies greeted Cersei as she ordered scorpions erected on every tower. Grand Maester Pycelle brewed powders to blind wings, while Septons walked streets with relics of the Seven, chanting blessings to bar scaled devils. Varys listened, whispered, vanished. Rumor said he sailed for the Stepstones on secret errand, but none could confirm. 2 moons passed. Tywin marched north, banners swelling, riverlords capitulating at Verdun's passing. But word of a black shadow over Maidenpool, of charred weirwood grove near Harrenhal, of a lone dragon's roar among ruin. Each lay seed of dread in every camp. Ember had not abandoned Westeros. He hunted its memory, carving fear deeper than armies could. Then came a letter sealed with wax black as jet. It reached Tywin's hands outside the Twins where Fry feasts awaited. He broke seal, eyes narrowing. Fire belongs to fire. The mother of dragons crosses the narrow sea with wing and wind. Bend knees or feel knees burned away. Drogon, Regal, and Viserion remember. No further demand.
No signature.
Yet parchment carried faint scorch marks, edges singed. Aboard some vessel midsummer sea, a dragon might have breathed lightly to seal its queen's threat. Tywin summoned Tyrion into dim tent reeking of boiled leather. 3 beasts march upon our shores. 2 under your watch already tax my patience. What counsel now? Tyrion felt weight of all sleepless nights. Make peace before war lights every field. Trade crowns promise of amnesty for Targaryen alliance. Dragons together outweigh swords apart. Tywin's laugh was cold as iron frost. Aegon conquered because no realm yet stood united. I have built unity on fear and coin. I need no foreign girl with pretensions. He tapped scroll. I will answer with heads, not knees. Tyrion imagined Verdant chained to this man's chariot, forced to burn until hide cracked. He thought of Orion's wounded wing, the mob's charred corpses, Ember's lonely scream over haunted towers. He saw 2 Daenerys, unknown, distant, yet mother of the creatures he had come to love. Fire to fire indeed. He bowed stiffly. Then we must be ready. Inside his doublet he kept a scrap of parchment rolled small. Dragon pit at sunrise, come alone. Not sent by Varys, nor Sibel, nor any he could trace. But he knew Ember's tongue in those words somehow, and perhaps fate's. That night he saddled a fast courser, slipped camp with Pod, rode beneath moon. Verdant shadowed overhead, scales glinting silver. Orion, still flightless, roared soft farewell. Tywin's sentries did not bar him, hands privilege even in dark. He reached King's Landing by dawn's gray hush. The dragon pit ruins stood empty, guards fled. Orders from Cersei to abandon cursed shell. Tyrion dismounted, heart hammering. Verdant circled once then settled upon cracked dome, folding wings like prayer. Inside, emberlight danced though no torch burned. Ember crouched amid shattered pillars, eyes twin fires. Before him stood a woman cloaked midnight blue, silver gold hair spilling in braids. She turned, face pale marble etched with grief and fury both. 3 dragon hatchlings ringed her feet, 1 black-winged, 1 cream, 1 green, each no larger than hounds yet radiating heat deeper than furnaces. Tyrion froze. Daenerys. Name left his throat a rasp. Her gaze flicked from dwarf to verdant perched above, to broken pit, to distant horns of Tywin's marching banners grating sky. You grew them half by chance, half by courage, she said, voice low thunder. But dragons cannot serve 2 songs. Will yours sing with mine, or bleed when mine sing louder? Verdant hissed, unsettled by strangers. Ember rumbled greeting, wings rustling ancient dust. Tyrion stepped closer, mindful not to threaten. Dragons will choose truth. I will not chain them to lies. Then free them. Her hand lifted. Drogon, the black hatchling, snapped at air, impatient. Free them all and ride beside me to break wheels rather than spin them golden. Tyrion thought of Tywin's war wagons, Cersei's scorpions, Joffrey's mad hunger, the zealots' charred bodies, of children who would die in crossfire of stubborn thrones. He remembered too the moment Verdant laid dear at his feet, when Orion nuzzled him after pain, when Ember's roar rumbled across dreams. Fire chose him once. Perhaps he could choose fire now. He reached to unclasp silver leash at Verdant's throat. Chains slid with metallic sigh. The green dragon shook free, launching into vault space, circling above Daenerys's trio. Ember padded to Tyrion's side, eyes bright with pride and question. He stroked charred scale. If we fly from this pit, there is no return. It is return, Daenerys said, to what dragons were meant to be. Outside, bells clanged alarm. Gold cloaks sighting unmarked sails on the Blackwater, crimson and black banners thrumming in sea wind. Tyrion nodded once. Then let fire plant new seeds. Daenerys extended a hand. He clasped it. Heat surged up his arm. Promise, peril, home. Dragons screamed as dawn broke red and gold across shattered city, and wings thundered sky, bearing dwarf and queen and prophecy unchained toward a horizon bright with burning futures.